Hello, and a very warm welcome to History for Sleepyheads. Come, find a comfortable spot. Let the weight of your day begin to soften. Dim the lights, and close your eyes if you feel comfortable. Imagine, just for a moment, that you are sitting by a river. It's late, the air is cool and clean, and a small, crackling fire pushes back the darkness, painting the ground around you in a gentle, flickering orange. Above, a vast canopy of stars is scattered across the black velvet of the sky, more stars than you've ever seen before. The only sounds are the whisper of the water and the pop and hiss of the fire. It's peaceful here. But this river has a story to tell. It has seen empires rise and fall. It has watched generations of fishermen cast their nets upon its waters. And it holds secrets. Secrets of a time when this quiet, peaceful place was the center of the world for a small band of brothers. A time when this gentle river held its breath, waiting for a storm. Tonight, we are not just going to learn about history. We are going to travel back through time, to feel it. We are going to step into the boots of the men who stood here, on this very riverbank, in the spring of 1951. We will walk alongside a group of soldiers from the west of England, whose story of courage has become a quiet, almost forgotten legend. A story of how ordinary men, far from home, faced something truly extraordinary. So settle in. Let the world outside fade away. Tonight, we journey to Korea, to a place called the Injin River, to understand the incredible, unbreakable strength of the human spirit when everything is on the line. And if you enjoyed these journeys into the past, a quiet like on the video helps our small community of history sleepers grow. Now, let the story begin. The year is 1951. The month is April. And you are here. Feel the air on your skin. It carries the last chill of a long winter, but it's softened by the promise of spring. There's a scent on the wind, a mix of damp, turned earth, wood smoke from 100 small fires, and something else, something sharp and green, like wild onions crushed underfoot. You are a young British soldier. You might be from Bristol, or Cheltenham, or a small village in the Cotswolds. Just months ago, your world was one of rolling green hills, stone cottages, and the familiar chime of a church bell. Now it is this. Look around you. The landscape is beautiful, but in a harsh, rugged way. The hills are like the knuckles of a giant, sleeping hand, still brown and barren from the winter, only just beginning to show the faintest blush of green. And before you the river. The Imjin. It's wider than you expected, its surface a slate-gray mirror reflecting the overcast sky. It flows on, indifferent, a natural, formidable barrier between your world and the one that lies to the north. You can feel the coarse, heavy wool of your uniform against your skin. It's a constant, scratchy presence. Your rifle is cold and solid in your hands, its weight a familiar burden. You've cleaned it so many times you could do it in your sleep. Its mechanical clicks and slides as familiar as your own heartbeat. This is the front line. But it doesn't feel like the films. There are no grand speeches, no dramatic charges. There is only the waiting. They call it the Forgotten War. Back home, the world was trying to heal from the last great conflict. No one had the appetite for another. So this is different. Police action. The politicians call it. A United Nations mission to keep the peace. But here, on the ground, it feels very much like a war. You are part of the 29th Infantry Brigade, a collection of British units, sent to this far-flung corner of the world. And more than that, you are a Gloucester. A member of the Gloucestershire Regiment. It's more than just a name. It's a family. A tribe. The men around you, with their strange and wonderful accents from every corner of the county, are your brothers. You share everything, your tea, your cigarettes, your letters from home, your fears. The Gloucesters are an old regiment, with a long, proud history. They have a unique tradition. They are the only regiment in the British Army permitted to wear a cap badge on both the front and the back of their caps. The back badge was earned in Egypt, long ago, for fighting back to back, completely surrounded, and refusing to break. It's a story you've heard a dozen times. A symbol of defiance. You just never thought it might become your story, too. Your days have fallen into a rhythm, a routine designed to keep the mind occupied. You stand to at dawn, the coldest part of the day, peering into the gray mist that hangs over the river, rifle at the ready. You run patrols, your boots sinking into the muddy rice paddies. You dig. Always you dig, improving the trenches, filling sandbags, turning this foreign soil into a temporary home. And in the quiet moments you live. You brew tea in a blackened kettle over a tiny, smokeless stove. The simple act of pouring the hot, sweet liquid into a tin mug feels like the greatest luxury on earth. You read letters from home until the paper is soft and worn, the words a lifeline to a world that feels a million miles away. You write back, telling them you're well, that the food is all right, that you'll be home soon. You leave out the part about the cold, the fear, the gnawing uncertainty. The atmosphere is one of strange contradiction. In the daylight there is laughter. The dark, dry humor of soldiers. You joke with your mates, you complain about the sergeants, you dream of a pint of bitter and a hot meal. But underneath it all, there is a tension. A constant, low hum of awareness. You know that somewhere, across that wide, silent river, in the dark hills to the north, someone is watching you. An army vast in number, waiting. The nights are different. The nights are for listening. When the sun dips below the jagged hills, a profound silence falls over the valley, broken only by the wind. Every snap of a twig, every rustle of leaves, sounds like an approaching footstep. You stare into the oppressive darkness, your eyes playing tricks on you, turning shadows into moving figures. You are waiting. You're not entirely sure what for, but the feeling is in the air, as real and as cold as the steel of your rifle. You can feel it in your bones. This quiet, this fragile, beautiful, terrifying quiet, cannot last. The night of the human wave. The calendar has turned to April 22nd. The sun, a distant memory, has surrendered the world to a deep and profound darkness. You are on watch. You stand at the edge of your trench, a solitary figure wrapped in the immense silence of the Korean night. The air is cold, carrying a dampness that seeps into your bones, and you pull the rough wool collar of your jacket tighter, the familiar scratch a small, grounding sensation. For hours, the night has been a predictable companion. It speaks in a language you have come to understand. The gentle, rhythmic snores of your mates, sleeping the sleep of the exhausted in the dugout behind you, is a sound of trust. The distant, lonely call of an owl, a sound of wildness. The soft, dry rustle of the wind through the grasses on the parapet, a sound of peace. These are the sounds of a world holding its breath, but a world that is, for now, at rest. But then, a change. It is not a sound that alerts you, but the sudden, jarring absence of it. The crickets, which had been providing their constant, chirping chorus, fall silent. All at once. As if a switch has been thrown. The owl ceases its call. The wind itself seems to die down. The entire valley, from the riverbed to the highest, unseen peak, is plunged into an unnatural, listening stillness. It is a silence that feels heavy, expectant. The fine hairs on your arms and the back of your neck stand on end. You tilt your head, straining your ears, listening for something you cannot name. And then you hear it. It is faint at first, a sound so alien it takes your mind a moment to process it. From across the wide, dark river, from somewhere deep within the black, sleeping hills to the north, comes the sound of a bugle. It is not the crisp, clean, familiar call of a British bugler. This is a strange, almost mournful melody. A series of notes that seem to hang in the cold night air, filled with a purpose you do not understand. Before it has even finished, it is answered by another, further to the east. Then a third, to the west. The sounds crisscross in the darkness, a ghostly conversation. Then, the whistles begin. Sharp, piercing, single-note shrieks that slice through the heavy silence. They are not signals of command as you know them. They feel like something more primal. The sound a predator makes. A shiver, born of pure adrenaline, runs through you. It has nothing to do with the cold. Your heart, which had been beating a slow and steady rhythm, now begins to pound against your ribs, a heavy, urgent drum. You hear the quiet, deliberate shuffle of your sergeant moving into the trench beside you. His presence is a comfort. You don't need to see his face in the dark. You know the look will be the same as yours, tense, alert, every sense straining. "Stay sharp, lad," he says, his voice a low rumble, barely a whisper. And then the real sound begins. A sound that will be seared into your memory for the rest of your life. It starts as a low, deep rumble, a vibration you feel in the soles of your boots before you can even properly hear it. It's not the sound of engines, or of artillery. It is a human sound. The sound of 1,000 hushed voices, 1,000 pairs of feet moving through the undergrowth, all coming closer. It starts as a whisper, a low roar that seems to be rising from the very earth itself, and it grows, and grows, and grows, until it becomes a physical presence, a wave of sound that washes over you, pressing in on you from all sides, a sound of immense and terrible purpose. You grip your rifle, your knuckles white. You peer into the darkness across the river, your eyes watering from the strain, trying to penetrate the black veil. And you see them. At first, it's just movement. A disturbance in the fabric of the night. A place where the darkness seems deeper, thicker. But as they get closer, moving with an unnerving speed, wading through the shallow parts of the river, their forms begin to resolve. And your mind struggles to comprehend what you are seeing. It is not a formation of soldiers. It is a sea of them. A tide of men, dressed in quilted, padded uniforms, their faces indistinct in the gloom. They are not moving in organized ranks, but in a vast, seemingly endless wave, a living flood of humanity, designed to overwhelm and swallow everything in its path. There is no time for thought. There is no time for fear. There is only instinct, and the muscle memory hammered into you by months of training. You hear your sergeant's voice, miraculously calm in the growing chaos. "Wait for it, lads, wait for it." The world shrinks. It is now the small V of your rifle's sight, and the patch of darkness it frames. Your own breathing is a roar in your ears. The first trip flares are triggered, and for a few brilliant, terrifying seconds the night is banished. The landscape is illuminated in a harsh, chemical green light, and you see the wave clearly for the first time. The sheer number is staggering, impossible. They are closer than you thought. So much closer. The first shots from your line ring out, a sharp crack that is instantly swallowed by the immense roar of the approaching wave. Then, the Bren gun in the emplacement next to you opens up. Its rhythmic, hammering thump-thump-thump is a comforting, solid sound in the madness. It is the sound of defiance. "Fire!" the sergeant orders, his voice cutting through the noise. You take a breath. You pick a target. You squeeze the trigger. The rifle kicks hard against your shoulder, a brutal, familiar punch. You work the bolt with practiced speed, out, back, forward, down. The empty, hot brass casing flies out, a tiny spark in the darkness. You fire again. And again. You are no longer a man. You are a part of a machine. A machine built for one purpose, to hold this line. The sounds of your own position are sharp, distinct, disciplined. The individual crack of the Lee Enfield rifles. The steady, relentless beat of the Bren gun. The calm, clipped orders of the officers moving along the trench. But the sound from the enemy is a force of nature. A constant, overwhelming roar of voices, a battle cry that is swallowed by the eerie calls of the bugles and the shrill, directing blasts of the whistles. You are not fighting an army, you are a stone wall, trying to hold back the ocean. For what feels like an eternity they come. The wave breaks upon your position, falters under the disciplined fire, recedes into the darkness, and then, impossibly, comes again. The barrel of your rifle grows hot to the touch. The air becomes thick and heavy, acrid with the smell of cordite and hot metal. But you hold. Your mates hold. The line holds. You are the Gloucesters. And on the back of your cap is a badge that reminds you what you were born to do when you are surrounded. You fight. Isolated on the hills. The night does not end suddenly. It bleeds away, slowly, reluctantly. The endless, deafening roar of the battle recedes, not into silence, but into a state of shock. The air still hums with the ghost of the noise, and a high-pitched ringing lingers in your ears. Slowly, a cold, gray light begins to seep into the eastern sky. It is not a hopeful dawn. It is a dawn of revelation, a merciless light that will peel back the darkness and show you the truth of what this night has cost. You become aware of your own body. A deep, profound ache has settled into your bones. Your shoulders burn from the constant kick of the rifle. Your hands are stiff, curled into the shape of the weapon they have held for so many hours. Your throat is raw, and you can taste the bitter, metallic tang of cordite on your tongue. Beside you, your mates are moving with the slow, deliberate motions of men who have pushed past the limits of exhaustion and are now running on pure nerve. No one speaks. There is nothing to say. You simply watch as the landscape materializes from the gloom. The ground before you is a scarred, alien place. The gentle slope leading down to the river is no longer a part of nature. It is a testament to the fury of your defense. The green light of the flares had shown you the impossible numbers, but the gray light of morning shows you the terrible cost. The great human tide has pulled back with the darkness, leaving behind a profound and chilling stillness. A small, fragile sense of victory might begin to flicker within you. You survived the night. You held the line. But then you lift your gaze. You look beyond your immediate position. And that is when the true gravity of your situation settles upon you, a cold, heavy weight in the pit of your stomach. During the night, in the overwhelming chaos, the attacking force did not just break against your position. It flowed around it. Like a river finding its way around a stubborn stone, it seeped into every gap, every ravine, every fold in the rugged landscape. And now, in the clear, unforgiving light of day, you can see them. You look to your left, to the hill where B Company was positioned. And you see them, small figures in quilted uniforms, digging in on the slopes. You look to your right, towards the positions of D Company, and you see the same. And then, with a dawning, sickening dread, you turn and look behind you. To the south. The direction of safety. The direction of the rest of the army. And you see them there too. They are on the hills behind you, calmly setting up machine gun nests. They are in the valley that was, only yesterday, your supply route. They are everywhere. The other companies of the Gloucesters, on their neighboring hills, are just as you are. You can see them in the distance, small pockets of defiance, but you cannot reach them. You are islands. Small, isolated islands of resistance in the middle of a vast, hostile ocean. The front line has vanished. The world, which was once a continuous line of defense, has now shrunk to the few hundred square yards of earth you occupy. Your trench is your home. Your mates are your nation. And the incessant, anxious crackle of the radio is your only link to a world that now seems a universe away. The nature of the battle changes. The great, overwhelming wave is gone, replaced by something more insidious, more personal. The siege begins. The day becomes a series of sharp, terrifying moments, separated by long, agonizing periods of tense, watchful waiting. You learn the new sounds of this war. You learn the sharp, distinctive crack of a sniper's rifle, and you learn to instantly flatten yourself against the hard earth of the trench, not knowing where it came from. You learn the sound of a mortar shell leaving its tube, a soft, hollow thump from a distant hill, and you begin to count the seconds until it arrives, a screaming, whistling crescendo that ends in a deafening explosion of dirt and shrapnel. You press yourself into the ground, making yourself small, praying that it doesn't have your name on it. The attacks, when they come, are no longer massive waves. They are sharp, probing assaults on a particular corner of your position. A dozen men will suddenly rise from the scrubland and charge, trying to find a weak point, trying to wear you down, to make you bleed ammunition you cannot replace. Your world is reduced to the primal necessities of survival. Thirst becomes a constant companion. The water in your canteen is warm and tastes of metal, but it is the most precious substance on earth. You take only small sips, rolling it around your dry mouth, trying to make it last. Hunger is a dull, persistent ache. You chew on a dry, hard biscuit, the hardtack scraping your throat. It feels like eating dust. Through the crackle of the radio, and from the evidence of your own eyes, you follow the fate of your comrades on the other islands. You watch as Castle Hill, a key position held by a mixed group of Gloucesters and Royal Northumberland Fusiliers, endures the most relentless punishment. The sound of the battle from that direction is a constant, furious drumbeat. You are too far away to help them. You can only watch, and listen, and feel a terrible sense of helplessness. The radio brings fragmented, desperate reports from their commander. Under heavy attack from all sides, ammunition is critical, must have support. And then, eventually, the radio from Castle Hill falls silent. The sun climbs higher in the sky, beating down on you. But you feel a profound, bone-deep coldness. The adrenaline of the night has long since worn off, leaving behind a stark, grim reality. You are surrounded. You are outnumbered. Your supplies are dwindling with every passing hour. And you are utterly, completely alone. Gloucester Hill. For 2 days, and for 2 nights, this is your life. A shrinking island in a hostile sea. The sun and the moon become your only timekeepers, marking another cycle of survival, another period of enduring the unendurable. The attacks continue, relentless and probing. The world becomes a blur of sharp, terrifying moments, the sudden charge, the desperate defense, the long, agonizing hours of waiting in between. The number of wounded grows. The pile of spent brass casings beside you grows. And your hope, that most essential of rations, begins to dwindle. You know, with a cold, hard certainty that settles deep in your gut, that you cannot last another night like this. To stay where you are, in these isolated pockets, is to be slowly and methodically wiped out, piece by piece. Then, a new order crackles over the radio. The voice of the commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Carn, is strained, but his words are clear and firm. The separate companies, the scattered islands of the Gloucesters, are to pull back. To abandon their positions and fight their way to a single, central point of high ground. A place on the map marked only as Hill 235. It is a desperate, almost suicidal gamble. To move in the open, across a landscape that is teeming with the enemy, is to invite annihilation. But the alternative, to stay and wait for the inevitable, is no choice at all. And so, under the cover of the third night, you prepare to move. The retreat is a nightmare painted in shades of black and gray. You slip out of your trench like a ghost, leaving behind the position you fought so hard to defend. You move in a crouch, your body aching with protest, trying to make yourself small, invisible. Every sound is magnified in the darkness. The crunch of your own boots on the rocky ground sounds like a thunderclap. The clink of a canteen against a rifle stock sounds like a gunshot. You move in short, frantic bursts, from one piece of cover to the next. A line of scrub brush. A shallow ditch. A cluster of rocks. You run, your lungs burning, your heart hammering against your ribs, and then you drop to the ground, gasping for air, listening. Listening for the shout, the whistle, the burst of gunfire that will mean you have been seen. You are not alone. You are helping to carry the wounded. A man with a shattered leg is slung between you and another soldier, his body a dead weight. He is silent, biting back his pain, but you can feel the tremors of agony that run through him with every jarring step. His survival depends on your strength. And so you find a strength you did not know you possessed. The air is alive. It whistles and snaps with bullets that seem to come from every direction at once. You do not know where the enemy is. You only know that they are everywhere. You don't dare look back. You just focus on the silhouette of the man in front of you, on the burning in your legs and lungs, on the desperate, primal need to keep moving, to get to the hill. Finally, after an eternity of terror and exhaustion, you make it. You scramble up the last few feet of a steep, rocky slope and collapse, your body screaming, gasping for the cold night air. This is it. Hill 235. It is not the fortress you had hoped for. In the faint starlight you can see that it is a bare, exposed piece of high ground. A windswept, rocky crest, offering little in the way of natural cover. But it is all you have. This is where the Gloucesters will make their last stand. This forsaken piece of earth will soon be known to the world by a new name, a name earned in blood and defiance, Gloucester Hill. There is no time for rest. The officer's voices cut through the exhaustion, urging you on. You begin to work, your movements clumsy but driven by a desperate urgency. With your small entrenching tool, you frantically scrape and claw at the hard, rocky soil, trying to create some semblance of a trench, some small depression that might offer protection from the storm that is sure to come. Throughout the night, the other survivors arrive. Small, ragged groups of men stumble onto the hill, their numbers shockingly, heartbreakingly small. You see the faces of men from A Company, from B Company. Men you shared a joke with just days ago. You see the haunted look in their eyes, and they see it in yours. There are no words for it. There is only a shared, grim understanding of what has been lost, and what is still to be faced. You pool your resources. It is a pathetic collection. The last of the ammunition is redistributed. For most men, it is no more than a few dozen rounds. Not enough for a sustained fight. Not enough for the morning. The last of the water, from a dozen different canteens, is collected and given to the ever-growing number of wounded. The medics, their supplies long since exhausted, work with nothing but torn shirts for bandages and a quiet, steady courage that seems almost superhuman. As the dawn of the third day breaks, the hill is shrouded in a thick, cold mist. It feels as though the world is holding its breath. And then, a new sound cuts through the gloom. A sound that brings with it a flicker of impossible hope. A voice on the radio. It's not one of your own. It's clear, strong, and unmistakably American. It's a tank regiment. The 8th Hussars. They are breaking through. The voice is a lifeline, a thread of connection to the outside world. Hang on, Gloucesters, the voice says. We know where you are. We are on our way. Everyone stops what they are doing. You hold your breath, and you listen. And you can hear it. faintly, in the distance, to the south. The deep, guttural roar of tank engines. The heavy, rhythmic chatter of their 50 caliber machine guns. It is the sound of salvation. It is the most beautiful sound you have ever heard in your entire life. A wave of relief, so powerful it almost brings you to your knees, washes over the exhausted men on the hill. For the first time in days you see men grin, their teeth a startling white in their dirt-caked faces. They clap each other on the shoulder. They're coming. The Americans are coming. Hope, which had been all but extinguished, is rekindled into a small, warm flame. You just have to hold on. You just have to hold on a little longer. You turn your head to the south, listening to the sound of that distant battle, the sound of your rescue, praying, with every fiber of your being, for it to get closer. No more bullets. For a time, it might be an hour, it might be 2, time has ceased to have any real meaning. The sound of the approaching American tanks is the only thing that exists. It is the center of your universe. It is the air you breathe, the blood in your veins. Every man on this forsaken hill who is able to, is turned to the south, listening. Not with their ears, but with their entire being. It is the sound of life. The deep, guttural roar of the engines is a promise of power. The heavy, rhythmic chatter of the 50 caliber machine guns is the sound of your own side, of overwhelming force, clearing a path. It is the sound of the cavalry coming over the hill. A story you've heard 1,000 times, and now, impossibly, you are living it. You can feel the energy on the hill shift. The deep, bone-weary exhaustion is still there, but it is now shot through with a current of live-wire adrenaline. Men who were slumped against the dirt walls of their trenches are now alert, their eyes fixed on the southern horizon. You see a man grin, a flash of white teeth in a face caked with dirt and grime. He catches your eye and gives you a slow, deliberate nod. It's going to be all right. You allow yourself, for the first time in days, to truly imagine it. The moment the first tank crests the ridge. The sight of the white star on its steel hull. The friendly faces of the crew. You imagine a hot drink. Sweet, milky tea that scalds your throat. You imagine a meal. Anything. A simple can of bully beef would be a feast for a king. You imagine silence. Not this tense, listening silence, but a true, peaceful silence, where you can close your eyes without fear. The thought is so beautiful, so powerful, it is a physical ache in your chest. You watch the officers, a small group gathered around the radio set. Their faces, which for days have been masks of grim determination, are now etched with a tense, hopeful concentration. You see the colonel, his binoculars pressed to his eyes, nod to the radio operator. You see the operator speak into the handset, and then listen, a small, tight smile on his lips. The message ripples down the line, past in hushed, excited whispers. They're breaking through. They've passed the first roadblock. They're on their way. But then, a change. It is not sudden. It is slow, subtle, and for that reason, all the more terrifying. The symphony of rescue begins to lose its rhythm. The furious, continuous roar of the fight begins to soften, to lose its sharp edge. The rhythmic chatter of the machine guns, which had been so constant, so reassuring, now becomes sporadic. It breaks off into short, isolated bursts, with longer and longer periods of silence in between. The men on the hill fall quiet. The whispers cease. The smiles fade. Everyone is just listening. You strain your ears, trying to deny what you are hearing. You tell yourself it's just a lull in the fighting. That they've stopped to refuel, or to regroup before the final push. They have to be. They wouldn't come this far just to stop. But the sound is no longer growing louder. It seems to have plateaued, a distant, angry murmur. And then, it begins to recede. The powerful roar of the tank engines, the sound that had filled you with such fierce hope, shrinks. It becomes a low, distant hum, like an angry wasp trapped in a jar. The sharp cracks of the battle become indistinct pops, blending together, losing their power. The sound is pulling away from you. A nervous quiet, thick with unspoken fear, falls over the men on the hill. Eyes dart from one man to another, seeking a reassurance that no one can give. You look at your sergeant. He is staring south, his jaw tight, his expression unreadable. You look back to the horizon, as if by staring hard enough, you can will the sound to return, to grow louder again. But it does not. It continues to diminish, each moment of growing quiet a turn of the screw in your gut. The low hum of the engines fades, until it is just a memory. And then, even that is gone, swallowed by the vast, indifferent silence of the Korean hills. And then, there is nothing. Nothing but the wind. The same lonely, mournful wind that has been your constant companion on this forsaken piece of rock. It whispers over the parapet, a soft, sighing sound. The sound of the end. The relief force has been stopped. They have been turned back. They are not coming. No one needs to say the words. The realization dawns on every man at the same time, a silent, collective understanding that is more devastating than any artillery shell. It is a physical blow. You see it in the way your sergeant slowly, deliberately, sits down on the edge of the trench, as if his legs can no longer support him. You see it in the way the man next to you lowers his head, resting his forehead on the warm stock of his rifle. You see it in the way the colonel slowly, so slowly, lowers his binoculars, his shoulders slumping forward by a fraction of an inch. There is no anger. There is no panic. The feeling is too deep, too profound for that. It is a quiet, hollow acceptance. The final, terrible truth of your situation has arrived, and it has settled over the hill like a shroud. You are on your own. This hill will be the end. The narrative of your life, the story of your survival, now slows to a crawl. The world, which had been filled with the promise of rescue, now shrinks to the smallest, most essential details. It is no longer a story of battle, of grand strategy, of hope. It is a story of endurance. The sun, which had been hidden by the morning mist, now breaks through. It climbs the sky with a relentless, cruel intensity. There is no shade on this bare hill. The heat radiates up from the rocks, shimmering in the air. The steel of your helmet becomes a small oven, cooking the top of your head. You can feel the energy being baked out of you, leaving behind a profound weakness, a heavy lethargy that makes every movement an effort of will. Thirst, which had been a nagging annoyance, now becomes an obsession. Your mouth is dry, your tongue a thick, swollen piece of leather. Your throat is raw, and every swallow is painful. The last of the water, a few precious gallons collected from every canteen, is now strictly for the wounded. It is kept in a single jerrycan, guarded by one of the medics. You watch him as he moves among the casualties. He doesn't have enough to give them a drink. He only has enough to moisten a piece of field dressing, a scrap of a torn shirt, and gently dab it on the cracked, feverish lips of a wounded comrade. The sight is a form of torture. You would give anything, your rifle, your life, for a single, cool mouthful of that water. But you do not ask. No one asks? Ammunition is now more precious than gold, more precious than water. The order is passed down the line in a whisper. Fire only when you are certain of a target. Every bullet must count. You no longer think in terms of magazines or clips. You think in terms of single, individual rounds. You pull back the bolt on your Lee Enfield, and you look at the brass cartridges nestled in the magazine. You count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have 5 rounds left. 5 chances to stop a man from killing you. 5 chances to stay alive for another minute. You close the bolt, the metallic click sounding unnaturally loud in the quiet. You count them again in your head, as if the simple act of recounting might magically increase their number. It does not. 5 rounds. Food is a distant, hazy memory. You cannot remember your last proper meal. Sometime in the afternoon, your sergeant moves along the trench. He holds in his hand a single, dry, hardtack biscuit. With the butt of his knife, he carefully breaks it into 4 equal pieces. He hands 1/4 to you. It is gray and dusty. You place the small piece on your tongue and let it slowly dissolve, trying to make it last. It tastes of flour and dust and desperation. It is a feast. It is the last meal you may ever eat. And everywhere there are the wounded. Their quiet, constant groans are the news soundtrack of the hill. They lie in the shallow ditches you have dug, their faces pale with shock and pain. Their bodies are covered in crude, blood-soaked bandages made from the torn remnants of their own shirts. There is no morphine left. There is no medicine. There is nothing for the pain. There is only a quiet word, a hand on the shoulder, a shared final cigarette. It is in this atmosphere of quiet, sun-baked desperation that a new figure becomes central to your world. He is not a warrior. He is not an officer. He is the padre, the regimental chaplain. His name is Sam Davies. He is an unarmed, middle-aged man with kind eyes, and he is, without question, the bravest man you have ever seen. Throughout the long hours of this final day, he is a constant, moving presence. He seems to have no fear. While the rest of you hug the meager cover of the trenches, he moves calmly and deliberately in the open, walking from one man to the next, seemingly oblivious to the sniper's bullet or the random mortar shell. He kneels beside you in your trench. He doesn't offer grand words of comfort, or empty promises of salvation. He simply sits with you for a moment. He pulls a crumpled cigarette from his pocket, one he has been saving, and hands it to you. He lights it for you with a steady hand. "Where you from, son?" he asks, his voice quiet and calm, a small island of peace in the sea of terror. You tell him. You talk for a minute about the green hills of home, about the rain, about your family. He doesn't talk about God, unless you want to. He just talks about home. Then he moves on. You watch him go. You see him stop to adjust the makeshift bandage on a wounded man's arm, his movements gentle and practiced. You see him sit with a young soldier, barely a boy, who is shaking with a fear he can no longer control. The padre puts a steadying hand on his shoulder and simply sits with him, his quiet presence a shield against the despair. He is a living embodiment of the spirit of the regiment, calm, unshakable, and refusing to be broken. He is a reminder that even here, at the end of all things, surrounded by death and suffering, there is still dignity. There is still humanity. And there is still grace. Every man for himself. The sun begins its slow, downward arc in the sky. It has been your tormentor all day, a relentless, white-hot eye in a bleached blue sky. Now, its fury abates. It begins to soften, its light transforming from a harsh, unforgiving white to a warmer, gentler gold. The shadows of the rocks, of the shallow trenches, of the men themselves, stretch out like long, black fingers across the battered earth of the hill. The day is ending. And you know, with a cold, calm certainty that has moved beyond fear, that you will not survive another night on this hill. The attacks have become more frequent in the last hour. Not the great, overwhelming waves of the first night, but something more insidious. More personal. Small groups of enemy soldiers, shadows detaching themselves from the scrubland below, make short, sharp, probing rushes. They are testing you. They are like wolves, circling a wounded animal, waiting for it to fall. Each rush is met with a sporadic, desperate volley from your line. A single shot here. 2 shots there. The disciplined, rhythmic fire of the first night is a distant memory. Now, each shot is a terrible, agonizing calculation. Is the target clear enough? Is it a definite threat? Is it worth one of your last precious bullets? After each small volley, the silence that follows is heavier, more profound than before. It is the silence of dwindling resources. The silence of a candle burning down to its end. You watch the colonel. Lieutenant Colonel Karn. He is a quiet, reserved man, not given to grand speeches or dramatic gestures. He moves along what is left of the line, his posture straight, his expression unreadable. But you can see the terrible weight he is carrying in his eyes. He stops at each position. He doesn't say much. He looks at the remaining ammunition. He looks at the wounded, offering a quiet word that you cannot hear. He looks at the faces of the survivors, his men. His Gloucesters. He is making a calculation that no commander should ever have to make. He is weighing the soul of his regiment against the lives of his men. He knows that to surrender, to raise a white flag over Gloucester Hill, is an act so contrary to the regiment's history, to the spirit of the double badge, that it is almost unthinkable. But he also knows what another night of fighting will mean. He looks at the dozens of wounded men, lying helpless in the shallow trenches. He looks at the exhausted, hollowed-out faces of the men who can still fight. He knows that to order a final, suicidal last stand, to fight to the very last bullet and the very last man, is to condemn every single one of them to certain death. It would not be a battle. It would be a sacrifice. He is trapped between an honor that stretches back for centuries, and a deep, profound humanity. Between his duty to the badge, and his love for the men who wear it. He gathers the remaining officers around him. They find a shallow depression near the crest of the hill, a place that offers the slightest bit more cover. You are too far away to hear their words. You only see the scene in silhouette against the setting sun. You see the colonel speak, his gestures small and precise. You see the other officers listen, their heads bowed. There is no debate. There is no argument. There is only the quiet, grim acceptance of the inevitable. The meeting lasts only a few minutes. It is all the time they have left. Then, the officers return to their positions, their faces set like stone. Your sergeant crawls over to the edge of your trench. He doesn't look at you at first. He just sits, his back against the dirt wall, and stares out at the valley below, now bathed in the soft, golden, tragically beautiful light of the approaching sunset. "Right then, lad," he says, his voice rough, heavy with an emotion he is trying to master. "Listen to me. Listen close. This is the order from the colonel." He pauses, taking a slow, deliberate breath, as if the words themselves are a physical weight he must push out. "The regiment will not be surrendered. We will not be taken as a whole." He finally turns to look at you, his eyes meeting yours in the fading light. "But there will be no last stand. There's no point in that. It's over." He lets that sink in. "At 2,200 hours, 10 o'clock, it's every man for himself. You get out as best you can. In small groups or on your own if you have to. The objective is south. Try to find the American lines. That's the order." He finishes, and the words just hang there in the quiet air between you. Every man for himself. It is an order that is also a release. An admission of the end. The regiment, this family, this tribe that has been your entire world for months, is about to be dissolved into the darkness. In 2 hours, you will no longer be a Gloucester. You will just be a man, alone in the night, armed with 5 bullets and a sliver of hope, trying to survive. A strange, profound calm settles over the hill. The final decision has been made. There is no more uncertainty. There is only the waiting. 2 more hours until the sun is fully gone. 2 more hours of life on Gloucester Hill. The fighting seems to die away completely now, as if the enemy on the surrounding hills, too, can sense that the drama is reaching its final act. The silence is broken only by the constant whisper of the wind, and by the quiet, pained groans of the wounded. These last hours are not about war. They are about being human. You watch as men who have nothing left to give what little they have. A soldier, his face a mask of exhaustion, takes the last, crumpled cigarette from his packet. He looks at it for a long moment. Then, with great care, he breaks it in half. He hands one half to his mate in the next trench. The other man nods his thanks. A flicker of a lighter, and the 2 small, orange embers glow in the gathering twilight. They smoke in a shared, comfortable silence, side by side, watching the last colors of the sunset fade from the sky. You see another man take out his wallet. It is worn and soft, its edges frayed from being carried in his breast pocket for months. He slowly, carefully, takes out a small, black and white photograph. A smiling woman, her hair in the style of the day, and a small child in her arms, squinting in the sun. He looks at it for a long, long time, his thumb gently, almost unconsciously, stroking the worn surface of the paper. He is saying goodbye. Then, he carefully places it back in the wallet, and tucks it securely into the deepest pocket of his jacket. The bonds formed in moments like these, and the shared silence of a final sunset, are unbreakable. They are forged in a fire that few will ever understand. Think about a time in your own life, when someone showed you an incredible act of loyalty or friendship, a moment when you knew, without a doubt, that you were not alone. If you feel like sharing, we would be honored to read about it in the comments below. The Padre, Sam Davies, is still moving among the men. His work is not done, it is perhaps at its most important. He kneels with the men who are too badly injured to attempt the escape. The men who will be left behind. He holds their hands. He gives them the last of the water, moistening their lips. He promises them, his voice a low, steady anchor in their fear, that he will not leave them. He will stay. He will be captured with them. He will face whatever comes, with them. It is an act of courage so profound, so selfless, it seems to hold the entire darkness at bay. Your sergeant comes to you one last time. He is carrying 2 Mills bombs, the heavy, pineapple-shaped grenades. He holds one out to you. You'll have more use for this than your rifle, lad, he says quietly. Don't be taken easily. You take the grenade. It is heavy and cold and solid in your hand. You have 5 bullets and 1 grenade. That is the sum of your worldly power. As the final sliver of the sun disappears below the horizon, casting the world in a deep, purple twilight, the men begin to form their small, final groups. It happens organically, without words. A nod. A glance. A quiet shuffle. You find yourself with 3 others. One is a boy from your own village, someone you kicked a football with on the green back home. Another is a quiet corporal, a man you barely know but who has a reputation for being steady. The third is a man with a makeshift bandage wrapped around his head, his face pale and drawn, but his eyes are clear and determined. You don't make grand plans. There is no map. The plan is simple. Go south. Stay low. Stay quiet. Stay alive. You shake hands with the men who are not coming with you. Each handshake is a final, desperate connection. A firm, solid grip that says everything that words cannot. There are no dramatic farewells. Only the quiet, understated phrases of your people. Good luck, mate. See you in the pub back home. Mind how you go. Each phrase is laden with a universe of unspoken meaning, of shared experience, of terror, of a desperate, flickering hope. You look at the faces of the men around you, the men you have lived with, fought with, and bled with for an eternity. You try to memorize them, knowing, with a terrible, heartbreaking certainty, that you may never see them again. This is the end of the Gloucesters. This is the end of your world. You are standing on the edge of the night, a ghost in the twilight, waiting for the signal to step into the darkness. The long walk into night. The clock in your mind, the one that has been counting down the final minutes of your life on this hill, strikes 10. There is no bell. There is no signal. The moment arrives in the same profound silence that has blanketed the last hour. The signal, when it comes, is a quiet touch on your shoulder. A silent communication from the man next to you. It is time. Slowly, painfully, you rise from the shallow trench that has been your home, your fortress, and your potential grave. Your legs are stiff, your muscles screaming in protest. For 3 days your entire world has been this small patch of earth. To leave it now feels like stepping off the edge of the world. You take a moment, a final glance around the darkened hilltop. It is a landscape of ghosts. The silhouettes of your comrades, rising from the earth like spirits, ready to melt into the night. You see the darker shapes of the men who are staying behind, the wounded, and the padre who has chosen to stay with them. There are no waves. No final words. There is only the vast, silent darkness, and the desperate hope that you will see the sun rise again. You take the first step. And then another. You are moving away from the hill, into the valley, into the unknown. You are one of 4 shadows, moving as one, a tiny, fragile entity in an immense and hostile world. The journey is a slow-motion nightmare. Every sense is stretched to its absolute limit, screaming with a mixture of terror and adrenaline. Your hearing is the first thing to betray you. The silence of the night is not empty. It is filled with 1,000 tiny, terrifying sounds, and most of them are coming from you. You can hear the frantic, panic drumming of your own heart, a wild bird trapped in the cage of your ribs. You can hear the rasp of your own breathing, impossibly loud, a desperate sucking for air that you try to control, to silence, but cannot. The rustle of your coarse wool uniform as it catches on a thorny bush sounds like a tearing sheet. The sickening crunch of a loose stone under your boot sounds like a rifle shot. You freeze, every muscle tensed, waiting for the shout, the flare, the burst of machine gun fire that will end it all. But nothing comes. Only the wind. Your sight is next to useless. The darkness is absolute, a thick, black velvet that smothers the world. There is no moon. The stars, which seemed so bright from the hilltop, are now obscured by the terrain. You can barely make out the silhouette of the man in front of you, a shape that is only slightly blacker than the surrounding blackness. You navigate by touch, by memory, by pure instinct. Your hands are outstretched, feeling for the solid trunk of a tree, the sharp edge of a rock. Your world is what you can feel, a few feet in every direction. Every deeper shadow could be a ditch, a ravine, or a waiting enemy soldier. Your imagination populates the darkness with 1,000 silent, watching figures. You move with an agonizing slowness. 10 feet. Then stop. Listen. Every nerve ending alight. You crouch behind a rock, your body pressed against the cold, damp earth, for what feels like an eternity. You are listening for the sounds of the enemy. A cough. The clink of metal. A hushed voice. The entire landscape feels alive with them, as if you are walking through a sleeping army. You come to a small stream. In the daylight, it would be a pleasant, gurgling brook, a thing of beauty. Tonight, it is a terrifying obstacle. The sound of the moving water will cover the sound of your approach, but it will also cover the sound of anyone waiting on the other side. And to cross it, you must expose yourself. You wade into the freezing water, the cold a sudden, violent shock that takes your breath away. The mud on the bottom sucks at your boots, trying to pull you down. You stumble, and your mate grabs your arm, his grip like iron, steadying you. You make it to the other side, your trousers soaked, your teeth chattering, and you collapse into the undergrowth, your body shaking with cold and fear. For hours, this is your existence. Move. Stop. Listen. Move again. The world is reduced to a series of primal, terrifying sensations. The fear is a constant, metallic taste in the back of your throat. The exhaustion is a leaden weight in your limbs. But you keep going. You are driven by the most powerful force in the universe, the simple, desperate will to live. To see the sun again. To go home. You are moving through a small patch of woods when it happens. You are so focused on the man in front of you, on placing your feet silently, that you don't sense the change until it is too late. It is not a sound that alerts you. It is a sudden, complete stillness. The man in front of you has frozen. You freeze too, your heart leaping into your throat. And then a voice. A quiet word, spoken in a language you do not understand, from the darkness just to your right. It is not a shout. It is calm. Conversational. And it is the most terrifying sound you have ever heard. Before you can react, before you can even think of the grenade on your belt, the darkness erupts with movement. Shadows detach themselves from the deeper shadows of the trees. There are 5 of them. 10. You cannot tell. They are all around you. You hear the sharp, metallic click of a rifle bolt being drawn back, right beside your ear. A hand grabs the front of your jacket, hard. Another hand takes your rifle from you. There is no fight. There is no struggle. There is no grand, final act of defiance. You have 5 bullets left, but they are useless. You have 1 grenade, but you cannot use it without killing your own mates. The moment is quiet, swift, and brutally efficient. It is over. The running is over. As you stand there, a prisoner, with your hands raised in the cold night air, you do not feel failure. You do not feel shame. You feel only a profound, hollow, and overwhelming exhaustion. A sense of release. The struggle to hold the hill is over. The struggle to escape is over. One fight has ended. And as you look into the face of the enemy soldier in front of you, a young man, no older than yourself, his face illuminated for a second by the beam of a small flashlight, you understand. A new struggle, a new fight, is just beginning. The fight to survive captivity. And what was it all for? That desperate, 3-day stand on a lonely, forgotten hill half a world away from home. Was it just a futile gesture? A pointless sacrifice? No. It was something more. For 3 days, your small battalion, numbering no more than 700 men, held its ground. For 3 days, you stood in the path of an entire division of the Chinese People's Volunteer Army. More than 10,000 men. You were a small, stubborn rock in the path of a tidal wave. And while the wave eventually washed over the rock, you did not just stand there. You held. For 3 crucial days you blunted the tip of the spear of the great Chinese spring offensive. You disrupted their timetable. You sowed chaos and delay in their advance. And in doing so, you bought the most precious commodity in warfare, time. The time you bought, paid for in blood and courage on Gloucester Hill, allowed the rest of the United Nations forces, the Americans, the Belgians, the entire army, to pull back, to regroup, and to establish a new, stronger defensive line. A line that would not break. Your stand did not win the war. But it prevented a catastrophic defeat. It saved the UN army in Korea from being outflanked and potentially destroyed. Your sacrifice had meaning. Every bullet fired, every hour of thirst, every moment of terror, it all had a purpose. You were the finger in the dike. And you held until the very end. The quiet river engine flows on, but it will forever remember the story of the men who refused to break upon its banks. And so, the battle for Gloucester Hill came to an end. Not with a final, thunderous crescendo, but with a quiet surrender to the darkness, and a desperate flight into the unknown. The story of your fight is over. But the story of the Gloucesters, the story that would echo down through the years, was just beginning. For the men captured on that hill, including yourself, the end of the battle was the start of a new, long, and arduous journey. A journey of survival in the brutal conditions of the prisoner of war camps. For nearly 2 years, they would endure starvation, disease, and the relentless psychological pressure of their captors, holding on to their discipline, their dignity, and the memory of the stand they had made together. For the few who made it through the darkness, who navigated the enemy-filled landscape and miraculously reached the safety of the UN lines, they brought with them the first-hand account of what had happened. A story of courage so profound, it was almost difficult to believe. And eventually, after the long years of captivity, after the armistice was finally signed, the survivors returned home. They did not return to grand parades or national holidays. The Korean War remained a forgotten war, a distant, complicated conflict that the world was eager to move on from. They returned to the quiet streets of Cheltenham, to the rolling hills of the Cotswolds, to the familiar embrace of their families. They returned as different men, forever marked by the things they had seen, by the friends they had lost, by the silence of the Imjin River. But their story did not fade. It became a quiet legend. A source of immense pride for their county, and a source of profound respect among the soldiers of the world. The men they had fought alongside, and even the enemy they had fought against, knew what had happened on that hill. And the allies they had fought to save, the United Nations forces, and specifically the United States of America, chose to honor their stand in a way that was almost unprecedented. They awarded the 1st Battalion, the Gloucestershire Regiment, a Presidential Unit Citation. This is the highest honor the United States can bestow upon a military unit. It is an award given for extraordinary heroism in action against an armed enemy. It is an honor that is rarely, if ever, given to a foreign unit. The citation, signed by the President of the United States, became a permanent part of the Gloucester's history. It speaks of how they were cut off and surrounded, how they withstood the onslaught of an overwhelming enemy, and how their heroic stand saved the entire corps from being enveloped and destroyed. The American commander on the ground, who had witnessed their impossible defense, had a simpler, more powerful way of putting it. He said that every one of the Gloucesters on that hill, in their quiet determination to fight to the end, had enlisted in the Suicide Club. It was a testament, written in the stark language of a soldier, to a kind of courage that transcends nationality, a courage that anyone who has ever faced impossible odds can understand and respect. So why does this story matter, all these years later, in the quiet of our modern world? Why do we return to this lonely hill in Korea, to this story of a battle fought so long ago? It is because the story of the Gloucesters at the Imjin River is a testament to a truth that is often forgotten. It is a testament to the fact that valor, true valor, is not always measured in victory. Victory is simple. It is a flag raised, a battle won. But valor is something deeper, something more complex. Valor is found in the quiet, grim acceptance of men who know they are beaten, but refuse to be broken. It is found in the sharing of a last cigarette as the sun goes down. It is found in the steady hand of a medic tending to the wounded when he has nothing left to offer but his own courage. It is found in the promise of a padre to stay with his men, no matter what. This story matters because it is about loyalty. It is about the profound, unbreakable bond between the soldiers in a trench. It is about protecting the person next to you, not for a king or a country or a cause, but simply because they are your mate, and you will not let them down. And most of all, it is a story about the enduring strength of the human spirit. It is about holding on to your humanity in the face of the unimaginable. It is a quiet, powerful reminder that even when surrounded by darkness, even when all hope is lost, even when the end seems certain, there is a strength inside of us that can shine with a brilliant, defiant light. The world has changed in countless ways since 1951. But the river, the Imjin River, flows on, just as it did then. It wins its way through the rugged hills, its surface a placid, gray mirror to the sky. The seasons come and go. The spring still brings a faint blush of green to the hillsides. The winter still brings its biting cold. The river is a silent, constant witness. It saw the courage. It saw the sacrifice. The Imjin River flows quietly again, but it remembers. And so, our journey tonight comes to a close. Slowly, gently, begin to let the story of the past fade. Let the rugged hills of Korea dissolve, and allow the quiet, courageous faces of the Gloucesters to recede into the soft mists of history. Become aware, once more, of the space around you. The comfort of your bed, the softness of your pillow. The gentle weight of the blanket that covers you. You are safe. You are at peace. The river is still here, its gentle whispers a timeless connection between their world and ours. It flows on, a current of memory, carrying their story out into the great ocean of time. But their stand is over. Their watch is ended. And you can rest. The heroes of the Imjin River teach us a profound and quiet lesson. They teach us that true strength is often quiet, found not in the noise of battle, but in the steady resolve of the human heart. Their story is a gentle reminder of the courage that lies dormant in us all, a quiet strength that we carry within us, waiting for the moment it is needed. It is the courage to endure, the courage to be loyal, and the courage to hold on to our own humanity, even when the world around us seems to have lost its own. Thank you for joining us on this journey tonight at History for Sleepyheads. It has been an honor to share this quiet story of valor with you. If you'd like to continue exploring the past with us, and you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. It helps our small community of history sleepers grow in the quietest of ways. And perhaps, on another night you might drift off to our story of the Endurance, and the impossible Antarctic survival of Shackleton and his crew. But for now, there are no more stories. There is only the quiet of this moment. The gentle sound of the water. And the deep, peaceful rest that you have earned. May your night be peaceful, and your dreams be calm. Until next time, sleep well.